this first tutorial will go over how I made my pattern using Photoshop and Silhouette. You don't have to do it this way, you can create your own pattern, but it's how I cut out my fabric and made all the pieces really even. So if you don't want to do it that way, you can skip ahead and go to the second tutorial. So I started in Photoshop designing my shape. Illustrator might be a better choice, but I don't know Illustrator, so I didn't use it. And I will make this shape available to download on my site if you just want to use the shape that I used. But I started by drawing a circle and then adding to that the teardrop shape. Okay, so you just go to custom shapes, and teardrop is one of the default font shapes in Photoshop, so you don't have to download that. And drew that the size I wanted. Then I went ahead and flipped it, transform path, and flipped it vertical. And then I just kind of resized it. And you'll notice that the circle kind of, getting it the right size, the circle kind of shows on the edges. And so I had to kind of mess with that. So I came over here, I rasterized both shapes so that they're easier to work with. So you're going to control click on the teardrop shape, so that has marching ants. And then you're going to go to select and inverse. So you're selecting everything except the teardrop, and then click on the circle shape so that that's what's actually highlighted. So then when you erase, the circle is what gets erased, but it's on the outside. Then you're going to want to highlight both layers and do Control E to combine them into one layer. Now I want to make sure that this is completely symmetrical on both sides. So I'm going to use my marquee tool to highlight one half of it, and then just do Control C and Control V to copy and paste it. Transform one side to flip it horizontal, and then just kind of line it up so you're absolutely certain it's exactly the same on both sides. And then you're just going to want to do the same thing you did before, highlight both layers and combine them into one layer again. So now you've got your shape ready. At this point you could print it and use that as your pattern. Okay, for me I'm going to use my silhouette. So this picture is the one I actually used when I created this. I'm going to go back to that one. And because I'm using my silhouette, I'm going to control click on the layer and add a new layer. And now that layer is in the same shape as what I highlighted. And I'm going to go to edit stroke and add a 3-point stroke around the edges. Okay, make sure it's an inside stroke. And then I'm just going to make invisible the shape that I took all that time to make. All I really want is the outline for the silhouette machine. I'm going to go ahead and save that as a PNG file. So that I can open it up in my silhouette. So that's the end of the Photoshop portion. And now if you have a silhouette, you can watch this section. If you're not using a silhouette, just go ahead and skip it. But I'm telling you, it saved me a lot of time. So I went ahead and opened the file. You have to pull down the file type so that you can see all files, and I can see that PNG file and pull it in. And so that comes in, and I just want to resize it, make it the size that I want it to be. Go ahead and click on the trace, select trace area, and draw around it. And then you just trace the outer edge and move the thing in. So now I've got the traced portion. And I added a line. I just clicked on the line tool, darted it all the way down, made sure it was centered, and just lined it up nicely so that I can kind of decide how much of a pop. The longer the line, the bigger the pop it's going to have. So that's where it's going to cut so that I can push them together. So now I'm going to highlight the entire thing, and I'm going to group them together into one picture. Okay, and then I just kind of want to resize it to get it exactly where I want it. And then I cut it out with my silhouette on regular cardstock paper. Because this is for a costume, I didn't need it to be super sturdy to be outside and get wet, so I just used regular paper, but you could use another material that silhouettes can cut. So I have 2 to a page. I was able to fit that quite easily. This is what it looked like when I actually printed them. And I can see exactly what size they are. And then I'm ready for the next step. Now I actually need 2 more pieces, which you probably saw at the beginning of the tutorial, that are cut out of fabric. So I ungrouped those, got rid of them inside circle, and I made the whole thing a lot smaller. Okay, so I changed the size of my silhouette to 12 inches because I cut a 12-inch piece of fabric. And I printed several on one. And then you actually want to create a smaller piece than what you have. So this one right here is the paper. Now I need one smaller to go on the inside, so I just kind of made it just a tad smaller, printed 12 of those, okay, or cut out 12 of those with my fabric cutter. Remember, on the silhouette you should use a different blade to cut fabric, or else it dulls your blade really fast. Then I cut another one that was bigger than the original that was to go on the top, and it's only bigger by like ½ inch. It's not a huge difference. and then I'm ready to go ahead and cut 12 of those out as well. And so as you can see, once I cut it out, this is kind of what it looked like with the image. After it cut out, it just cuts it out perfectly, and it made it a lot easier to go. So that's the end of the first tutorial. You can watch the second tutorial where I actually make the hat and go through that process.